Is it obsession? At Sawyer, it's persistence. For over 55 years, we've pursued the harmony of precision and artistry. Our handcrafted paddles and oars unite industry-leading innovation with timeless craftsmanship. Each stroke tells a story shaped by the perfect balance of wood and carbon honed through decades of refinement. The result? The finest paddles and oars on the water for those who demand nothing less than excellence. Experience the art of performance. Experience Sawyer.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Zach coming to you live from the Sawyer factory. This is our bi-weekly factory address, just kind of trying to tackle some of the questions that we hear out there and give you a chance to reach out to us. We are trying to get on to more and more channels, so hopefully if you're seeing us on Instagram or Facebook, please leave us messages, leave us comments, and we will try and address those as we go today. And if we don't get to them today, we will definitely get back to you after the fact and follow up and make sure you get answers to your questions. So primarily with this live, the main thing we want to do is we're going to go over some repair items and kind of let you know kind of certain things that you have at your disposal through all of our websites, both our websites and our dealers mostly. And also just kind of reintroducing some products. So some of the product is brand new. Today I am rolling out some brand new, never been actually released whitewater paddles, the new Guide Stick and the Guide Stick Pro. But also we will introduce some of the other parts of our line that maybe you're not that familiar with. So first and foremost, the main thing that we got live a while back, maybe about three weeks now, is the aftermarket molded pro tips. And so the aftermarket molded pro tip is literally that very key aftermarket piece that helps you take care of your square tops and your shoal cut blades and your Dynalite blades after you've put, maybe 300 or 400 days on them. So between when you get your oars and that 200 or 300 days on them that you wore down through that pro tip, number one thing that you need to do every winter, if possible, is you need to give them a little coat of refresh. And what I mean by that is the winter time is the ideal time to put a revarnish on your oars with some Miller spar varnish formulated just for Sawyer. One of the things that's very important about the spar varnish is right on the top reed there is just the UV ray shield. So the varnish is going to protect your oars from the UV rays. So we put sunscreen on our bodies, right? Varnish a little sunscreen for your oars. So extend that life of your oars, revarnish them every year. If you don't use them a lot, maybe every 2 years. But that's going to come into play once again and a couple other things we're talking about. So the molded pro tip is exactly what it sounds like. We brought this out several years ago, but we weren't able to actually produce them to where they came out to where they were actually a good fit piece. So we kind of discontinued it and we haven't had those around for quite some time. We finally got those brought back because we do have a lot of square top owners and wood oar owners that are all over the country and they can't get back to the factory. If you are in Southern Oregon or really on the West Coast, getting your oars back to us in the off season, which we are not in off season now, but the off season is literally, September, October, November. If you are on the West Coast and you see that you have wear on your Dynalite blades down on the pro tip is wore out, come by the factory, drop them off, and that's the best way to get a factory refinish on your pro tips. But if you don't have that ability, you now have the ability to fix it by yourself. So this is your regular Dynalite shoal cut. It's on a square top. And I'm going to show you a couple things. So you probably may or may not be able to see this in the video, but that is your molded pro tip. And if you look real close, you can see that basically the old pro tip had to be completely ground off. So when you buy these, you buy that aftermarket piece, the very first thing you have to do is you've got to get all of that excess ProTip out of there. So you gotta grind it off. You know, if they're really old, maybe you can chip some of it off, but this is typically going to be some time with a grinder, with a sander, and you got to just make sure you get all of the old ProTip off so that you can get the new ProTip to go on. And then this is a molded shoal cut, so basically just hooks on there like that. Bring it around, snaps into place, and you're going to just epoxy that back into place. Okay? So the shoal cuts fit really nice and snug. So once we've done all that prep, the prep is big. Once you've done all that prep, you got your molded piece, you've got your epoxy, you mix your epoxy, get it frothed up. You want to cut it with something. We use Aerosil here. We can't sell that through the mail, but you can mix it with, with some flour, a little bit of fine sawdust, basically just so it isn't really runny. But you're putting that epoxy in there, getting the epoxy layer in there, and then we move on to the next step. So after you've actually got your epoxy all mixed and you've got your tip set up, you pretty much just press that tip on there with the epoxy in there, and then we use a stretch film. So we're just basically tightening that on there with a stretch film and working it around there, getting it nice and snug, every little spot. So you can see like right in the very tip top there, all the way down the belly, all the way on the very bottom of it right here. Get a nice wrap of stretch film. And the shoal cuts, really, these are pretty molded. It's fitting really pretty good. So we didn't have to put any clamps on it. But if you're doing a wide or a narrow, you might have to put clamps on it if you see any place that the tip is lifting up. Okay? But, you just pretty much mold that on there. Now this blade is just going to sit there for at least 12 hours of cure. So in a warm area, maybe someplace that actually is, 60, 70 degrees. So, if you have a really cold garage, maybe put it in a storage room or something. And then basically I'm going to go ahead and show you just what this looks like. We did this one a little bit earlier. So now we're just going to take that stretch film and we're pulling that off. We're going to see what our product looks like. All right. So bringing that out. And the reason we like to use the stretch film is it does come off pretty easily. But as we're working that off, it's coming off the tips. We'll get stuck in a couple places, but just trying to peel that all off. And some of this stuff, if it's left over, you may have to sand it off. We got a little bit of catch right there, but looks like we're coming clean off of that. A little bit of catch right in that tip. That's where we definitely put it on there real tight. Got a little bit that's caught up there, so the epoxy's kind of holding it up there. So we won't be able to get that off right there. We'll have to sand that off. Pull that off there. Now we're trying to get this rest of this bit off here. And if you had like an X-Acto knife, you could use that. Just basically get a little better pull on that. But I'm just going to try and get this off for you so we can see where we're at. And we got a little bit of stick in the very end there. So trying to just work that off there. A little bit of roughness. But mostly all off. Okay? Now, if you look here, get these last couple pieces off the bottom. So now if we look real closely, you can see that's mostly all epoxied in there. Epoxy got all the way around the edge, all the way down on the end there. And so really, you got a nice good seal there. Now with a little bit of sanding, sand off all these little bits of stretch film off of there. And then what is that next step? Well, as we just covered, the next step is going to be putting some varnish on. I do have one here that we did also a little bit earlier with just a wide. You can see this one we used some clamps on it, but it does sit down there pretty good. You know, there's a little spot here. Maybe you can see that little gap right there. That's something you might want to fill with epoxy. But before you basically sand that down, buff it down again. And the next step before she goes back on the river, a little bit of spar varnish. All right. So aftermarket pro tip is really a game changer. And this is primarily designed just for everyone that lives out of the state of Oregon. If you can't get close to the factory, that's literally what that aftermarket pro tip is all about. So that's really our main focus for just repairs. Remember to revarnish your oars. And if you do an inspection on your oars and they are wearing down, really look at putting that aftermarket replacement pro tip on it. Replacement pro tip and some varnish can put many, many more miles back in your oars. So bringing some life back into your oars. Now, moving along, I do want to introduce a few products that are new and a few products that we use that we have at your disposal that maybe you're not aware of. Now, the first product that I really want to talk about is a product that's been doing really well for us and is quite popular with all the angling crowd, and that is the Smoker Bandit. So if you haven't seen a pair of Smoker Bandits, or you haven't been on the river and grabbed a pair of Smoker Bandits, if you go into your local shop, definitely, if they've got a pair of Smoker Bandits, check them out. So the Smoker Bandit is absolutely lightweight by design, the absolute lightest oar in our market. And these actually come in almost half the weight of what a wooden square top is, or an MX oar with like a Dynalite extra duty blade. Okay. So if you've got a square top 9-footer, it's going to weigh about 7.5 to 8 pounds. Super light swing weight, but overall weight 7.5, 8 pounds. MX, same thing, 7.5, 8 pounds. The Bandit, 9 feet, is about 4.5 pounds. So extremely lightweight. A couple things that we get is you get a full carbon fiber shaft. You get a little less mass for the handle, so it's got a much smaller handle. So there's less wood in there, less aluminum. There's no aluminum, it's just wood. No aluminum in there, drop off the weight. And then every Bandit comes with a 24-inch blade. The 24-inch blade makes it so it's extremely light because you don't have extra 6 inches of mass right there at the end of the shaft. And also, it gives it extremely light swing weight. So the Bandit has super light swing weight just by design, okay? So if you are an angler, if you're rowing for multiple hours at a time on not real big water, class 3 or below, the Bandit is definitely something to check out. Now, if you're running big gear boats, Bandit is not for you, okay? The Bandit is really for anglers, more high repetition on lighter boats, actually going after fish. So Smoker Bandit in our line, at our dealers, check them out, ask for them by name. Definitely that is one of the products that we'd like to focus on today. Now, the other piece that I want to focus on today is that a lot of you have composites out there. And a couple weeks ago, we talked about the stubby blades and the shorter oars for smaller boats. So if you've got an oar, you can get a 24-inch blade or a 30-inch blade, but there's a couple other things you can do to change that length. So if you buy an 8-foot oar and you have a bigger boat and you want something a little bigger, one of the things that is very easy to do is we actually sell extensions. It's a 14-inch extension, and the reason that it's 14 inches and not 12 is because we need to have X amount of overlap at the junction here. but the 2 inches is not going to make that big of a difference. Put that in there. Now you've got a 9-foot oar with that same blade. So the shaft extensions, you can get them in any color to match exactly what your shafts are. So you can get them in, this is the Shockwave red. You can get them in, blue X weave, high vis green, Shockwave green, white X weave, any color out there, you can get your oar extensions. Now, if that is not what you're looking for, it doesn't come out super easy, but if you check the handle here, where the handle is, you can also do just a minor extension. So you can do a 6-inch extension at the handle. And so the 6-inch extension is just that bit right there. It'll butt up right where the shaft is, and you've gained 6 extra inches on your handle there. So shaft extensions and handle extensions gives you the 6-inch and also the 14-inch overall extension. So you've got a lot of options for your composite shafts, so you can actually extend the life on those. Both the handle here comes as a counterbalance or a standard handle as well. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Now, moving right along, I do want to just take this time to introduce to you a couple brand new products. Never been seen before. These are some brand new whitewater paddles that we just released. These are going to be the Guide Stick and the Guide Stick Pro. So that is pretty much the blade of the new Guide Stick, and you can see that it's a straight blade. It's got a reinforced spine down the center, so it should actually make it pretty stiff. And comes with a stock Pro Tip as well. So the Guide Stick Pro has the carbon fiber Shockwave overwrap on it, and so that makes it a little bit more heavy duty. So definitely if you're doing whitewater guiding, you probably want to get the Guide Stick Pro. But if you're wanting something a little bit more lightweight, we do have the standard Guide Stick, which same blade, same spine, same Pro Tip, but there is no overwrap on here. So that is just a complete fiberglass shaft, wooden transition and T-grip. And this paddle is going to be quite light. And this is actually the new Guide Stick. So we'll get these up on our website. We'll get them out to our dealers here soon. If you're going to any of the whitewater festivals, these are going to be in the prize package at Boatsmith. You're going to Boatsmith this weekend coming up. These will be in the prize package. So these will be at Boatsmith. These will be at Canyon Creek. So look for these in the prizes. But that's the new Sawyer Guide Stick and the Guide Stick Pro. Just got finished up, and those are coming to you live now. All right, thank you there. Now, moving right along, many of you have actually joined us on the whitewater. Sorry, not the whitewater, but the fly fishing film tour. We've been making loops throughout the Pacific Northwest and started off in Montana. So several of you maybe caught us at Bozeman and in Missoula. Well, we were in West Seattle, we were in Portland, and the next stop on the tour is going to be in Boise, Idaho. So Boise, Idaho, if you're in Boise, mark this on your calendar, but Sawyer will be in town, and we will be at the show on February 21st. I believe there'll be a pre-party at the 10 Barrel Pub, and we will also have our partners from the Air Retail Store will be joining us there, also at the Boise show. Then a week after that, February 27th, we will actually be in Salt Lake City, and we will have our partners at Utah Whitewater joining us at the show there. So those couple places, mark your calendar, get out to see those shows. But the other thing is that if you are needing a product like some wooden oars and you're in Salt Lake City, go in there and talk to the guys at Utah Whitewater, get an order in, because if they don't have it, we can bring it to them. This is just one way that you can actually get some product and have that ability to, cut down on that shipping cost. So if the control room has a shot from the Portland show, we had a good time there, big sold out crowd, and every show that Sawyer is at gives away a pair of oars. So you definitely want to take advantage of going to those shows, and by just going to the show, scanning the QR code and getting into their system, it puts you into the drawing for some great prizes. And one of the prizes is a pair of square tops. So definitely check those shows out. We have, when we come into March, I think we have 4 or 5 stops in March with the Fly Fishing Film Tour. So check those out as well. And as you go onto our website, the very top of the website, you can see the F3T, the Fly Fishing Film Tour. You scroll on to that. There is a Scratch It program that we offer with our, every time we're at a show. And if you scroll up right there, those 5 dealers are partners of ours already that have partnered with us. So if you actually got a Scratch It at one of those shows already, you can take that Scratch It to any of those 5 dealers there. They will honor the discount that you can either get the discount with us directly or those dealers on the screen. So that is Air Retail Store, like I said, in Idaho, Emerald Waters in Washington, Road Drift Boats in Bozeman, Montana, the Paddle Shack in Spruce Bay. Cody James is trying to get some Sawyer presence up there. And then Utah Whitewater in Salt Lake City. And that is Clinton and Anthony out there in Salt Lake. So definitely reach out to those shops because they're partnering with us. They'll be part of the tour, and we'll bring on more as we get a few more coming up as we roll into the March part of the calendar. We will be, like I said, multiple stops in Colorado. We will be in Bend, Oregon on, I think that is the 20th of March. So mark your calendar for all of those little tidbits and come by, check out the Sawyer crew. And, we're happy to answer questions at those shows. A lot of times we get some detailed questions about the product because, how often do you get to see a person that works at Sawyer? Not every day. So that's why one of the reasons we're doing these online bits, so you can have some access to us, but also just, reach out via email, via text, via phone calls, and we're more than happy to help you out and take care of any of your paddle and oar questions that get you into the right product for you. One other thing to look for, if you are a public television viewer, we did a documentary with All Access just back in June of 25, and that has been released to every public television station across the country. So if you are a public television watcher, you will actually see little fillers, about a 4.5-minute documentary that features Sawyer Paddles and Oars. It also features Indigo Outfitters, which is a local outfitter that we work with, and also covers an interview with Link Jackson, who is partners with us in the Artisan series. So the full documentary will be up on our feed pretty soon. We're just working out all the details with the distribution channels, but you will see the 4.5-minute little docuseries that will run pretty much from now all the way through the rest of the year. So look for that on your public television channels. And you will also, if you're on Discovery Live or ESPN News, you will actually start to see a little trailer snippet of that. This is about a 30-second commercial for Sawyer. So just some places to look at, see some Sawyer stuff coming up and some good projects we got going on. And keep tuned to this. We're going to bring more and more details and more info and bring more things into our live feed every 2 weeks. So check it out. Leave us your comments. Send us your questions, concerns, and we'll be more than happy to answer those. Appreciate everybody tuning in for wherever you saw this. If you were able to see it, you know, it's kind of a crapshoot going live, trying to see if it actually all worked. But you know, hopefully you guys saw this out there, and if not, we'll take this whole recording, put it into a feed, and it'll be live on our YouTube channel. So appreciate everybody tuning in. If you do get out on the water, remember, be patient, be calm, and we'll see you on the river.